So, basically, the title of my paper is The Toronto Maple Leafs Tricky but Not Impossible Cap Situation. The guiding question is can the Toronto Maple Leafs sign and keep all of their core players with their looming cap problems? I'll explain how I think they'll be able to do this. It is tricky, but no, it is not impossible. So, to the Leafs faithful out there, remain optimistic, please. I encourage you to do that. So, first, a little State of the Union. This season, the Toronto Maple Leafs finished third in their division. Basically, it was pretty tough for them to move up or down simply because of the way the divisions are structured. But so they had 46 wins, which equates to about 100 points when you add in the overtime losses. And I think the biggest thing that I kind of focused on here for my project is their goals for and goals against ratios. Overall, you want to be a plus team. If you're a plus team, chances are you're going to make the playoffs. So I think that's really important for you guys to keep in mind. Also, they need to maintain production from their youth. They're a very young team. Average age is 27 and a half, as you can see there in the document here, in the picture. While that may seem a little old to you guys, keep in mind that the 4 or 5 players that they have that are above 30 are really boosting those numbers up because they have 38 and 39-year-olds on the roster that they won't have next season. And along with that is in the last 3 or 4 drafts, they've been able to really stockpile a lot of high-end talent from strategic management, and just it's simply because of how bad they were in the years prior. So here is basically our breakdown of the stats from this season. But before I kind of talk about that, I kind of want to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs themselves. So basically, they're one of the best franchises in the NHL history. This season, that with the 46 wins, that equates to about a 55% win expectancy. And we were able to determine that based off of their goals for and goals allowed and the Pythagorean theorem method that we found in Matheson. Most importantly, as you can see here, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Austin Matthews, Morgan Riley, and even William Nylander down there at number 12. Although he's only played 54 games, we can expect a heck of a lot more out of him moving forward. The big piece of the puzzle here are their big guys. You got Mitch Marner, who you acquired through the draft. 94 points is an incredible season. He's going to have to get a new contract, and we'll touch on that in a minute. John Tavares, he's a highly sought-after free agent. Kyle Dubas, the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, was able to sign him to an $11 million a year contract for 7 years, which really kind of put the team in a little bit of a bind. And then Austin Matthews, he's a generational talent. He's just former first overall pick. And luckily, they were just able to lock him up to a 5-year, $11.3 million per year deal. Heavily front-loaded with signing bonuses simply because of the way their ownership is able to pay so much money. They got more money than they truly know what to do with. And then to touch on the Nylander situation, the reason he only played 54 games was because, well, he had a little bit of a contract dispute, which is definitely something that they're going to try to avoid moving forward. Willie wasn't locked up until roughly December 1st, so that really hindered his performance. But moving forward, we can definitely expect a lot more out of him. So now what you see here is basically the contract situations as they are today. Pretty good. It's a lot of numbers to look at, but I'll try to bring a little more clarity to it moving forward. Cap hits are different. I mean, the way that they're able to do it is it's kind of unknown to the general public, but we can expect some pretty clear cap situation after this presentation is over. As you can see at the bottom, their current total salary is $81 million, but the actual cap hit is only $75 million. That's because of long-term injury relief, which they're able to use to their advantage. So committed salary for the next 3 years is $80 million for next season, 2021, 2020-21 is 70 million, and then 21-22 is 55. So I expect that for next season they'll be able to sign all their key players. We'll touch on that in a second. And then 2021, I think it's going to get a little bit more complicated. They got 4 RFAs and 2 UFAs, which means they really want to lock up their 4 restricted free agents. Ideally, they can get those guys on longer term deals, and they'll be good to go moving forward. But also, they have a lot of cap room to work with, especially because the cap is expected to go up closer to the $86 million range. So that works in their favor for sure. So I've targeted a couple players to add. The guy pictured here is Tim Heed. He played in 37 games this season with 2 goals and 11 assists. He's a right-handed defenseman that Mike Babcock has publicly stated he wants and needs. So I think we'll be able to get him on a roughly 3-year deal worth about $1 million a year. Quite simply, he hasn't played enough games to really earn that much more money. This season, he was only making $700,000. So that'd be a big addition to the blue line, and on a team-friendly deal at that. And then we got Alex Chiasson. He played with Connor McDavid this season on a league minimum contract. He's a Stanley Cup champion. He's played 700 games. I have us giving him a 3-year, $2.2 million deal. This certainly fits into our cap situation very well. And he's a veteran welcome presence, so that would be great. And then I have pictured here is Eddie Lack. He's coming off a season where he hurt his hip. He had hip surgery, but he's expected to come back. He only made $650,000 this year, and he's played 200 NHL games. So what that will do is it'll give us a little bit more depth, and I expect to be able to get him for about $700,000 a year. So players to re-sign. Mitch Marner. These are the 3 guys that we need to re-sign, and I think this is how it's going to go. So Mitch Marner, obviously, is our leading scorer, so very important signing. I believe we'll be able to get him close to $9.4 million. With the way that Toronto players can really make money outside in the market with their sponsorships and so on and so forth, I don't see this being an issue. And then Captain and Johnson, they're just simply unproven, so look to get them on a 2-year bridge deal each, worth about $4 million in total. So the salary cap moving forward, I see us making it work. These numbers kind of paint that picture a little more clearly for you guys. And this is with my free agents added in and a couple of guys subtracted. We had a couple of guys on bad contracts that I believe we'll be able to get rid of or put them on long-term injury reserve. So I don't see an issue going forward with that. And then I ran a regression for projected wins. There's a very strong correlation between goals for and goals against. Quite simply, if you score more goals than you allow, you're going to win. And the numbers are there to kind of prove it. On top of that, I was able to come up with some projected stats. And that's kind of what I used for my regression, with general progression in the players and adding in a couple depth guys. I think production will go up. And then expected wins, we use the Pythagorean theorem, so the numbers equate to about 0.567 winning percentage, which would be about 47 wins. That's right on par with what we were this year, so I think that'll be just fine. That should set us up for a lot of success moving forward. And then this is just simply my cap-friendly tool with all my numbers calculated in and all the new contracts. This is kind of the best picture of the salary cap moving forward. I really like how this turned out, and I think it shows that it definitely can be done. Closing remarks. I mean, Kyle Dubas has publicly stated that it can and will be done. Between his leadership and his brains and Mike Babcock's coaching abilities, I think this team is set up moving forward for long-term success.